everyone. Welcome to Women in the Making. Today we have the incomparable Amanda Hoang, public defender and also proudly representing Miss Bellevue USA as she competes for the title of Miss Washington USA this June. Amanda's story is like no other. Her family emerged from the turbulent aftermath of Vietnam War and humble beginnings as refugees in Seattle. Despite language and cultural barriers, she became a fierce advocate for the marginalized and indigent community, working in public defense. She is not just a beauty queen, she is a force of nature and a beacon of resilience. She is ready to lead, serve, and leave behind a long-lasting legacy. Let's hear more from her. Amanda, welcome to Women in the Making.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It looks like we have somebody else along with you today. Who is that?
This is Coco. This is my little toy poodle.
And she's super cute.
I know. She is very excited to be here. I'm sorry. She just wants to kind of just say hi to everyone in the show.
Okay. Firstly, congratulations on winning Miss Bellevue Washington USA. That is so amazing.
Thank you.
And we are going to go straight to segment one, which is my first question. So you have a very interesting story. You know, your family comes from a lot of hardships.
Yeah.
And you guys the family went through the turbulent aftermath of Vietnam War.
Yes.
And your family eventually sought refuge in the Philippines. Can you take us back to that journey? And I know you were probably really little, but you know it all.
The story of my family. My parents, my mom and my grandma were victims of the communists that had come to our house and kicked us out, threatened to kill them because my mom was mixed race with Vietnamese and African American.
Wow.
And same thing with my uncle. Mm-hmm. And what she had told me is that in the middle of the night, they had escaped. Her, my uncle, my grandma, and her grandma had left to just go in the village and into the, the wilderness or woods or whatever. And they just left everything behind.
Wow.
So from a family that had everything went to nothing. And years later, my mom had told me that she grew up selling things that they found on the street to find money for food. Mm-hmm. And my grandma slept on the streets. My mom was on the streets. And eventually they had met my dad, who was able to help them fund money for the application to the it was something called the Amerasian Act. Mm-hmm. If you had American blood, you were able to apply to come to the States. And so that's how we had been sent to the Philippines. And I was born prematurely.
Wow.
So I came out a month early and I was like, I'm here, I'm ready. And I fought really hard. And after a month, we were already well enough to go to the States.
Wow, that's so interesting. Like, I almost had goosebumps when you were talking about that, right? Like, we've heard stories like that. We see movies about it. But to actually know a family who's gone through it all.
Yeah.
And it really hit me hard when you said, just leaving everything overnight that you have and escape for your life, for your family, for your child that you're going to give birth to. I can't even imagine how that must have felt like being a pregnant mom.
Yeah, and she had me really young. She was only 19.
Oh my gosh.
So to have to try to just survive the war and then now learning how to be a mom. The one thing that she told me that really stuck out to me was that because she was mixed race in Vietnam, she couldn't even get education. So imagine, being told you look different, you can't go to the school like us. And then you hear about the American history of segregation as well. So my mom had it tough.
I'm sure. But on the contrary, she raised an absolutely beautiful daughter.
Thank you.
So thanks to the genes, we have you here today.
Thank you. She's very proud.
So I want to ask, can you share a specific moment or experience from your childhood that has a profound impact on who you are today?
Yeah, man, there's so many. Growing up biracial in the 90s where it wasn't very common.
Yeah.
I was dealing with a lot of racial identity issues within my family and then also in school.
Oh, I can't
So,
imagine that.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was at family parties and stuff, a lot of things that I remember was being said was, "Oh, who's this Ethiopian girl? Who brought the dark girl to the party? Whose kid is this?"
You're kidding me.
I'm not even
Oh my
kidding. I was
gosh.
called Ethiopian so much when I was younger because I was really dark.
Mm-hmm.
I was very skinny and very small. And that definitely had an impact on my self image.
Of course.
And also not having my real dad around. I had
Mm-hmm.
a stepdad and I was born in the Philippines. I had a black grandfather. None of this made sense to me.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I don't get this.
I don't know who I am.
Yeah, and I didn't fit in with my family because I didn't look like them except my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't fit in with my counterpart African American side. And I was just very different in school. And so I got teased a lot. So much that I even changed my name. So
Wow.
I had a Vietnamese name. And when I was 9, I changed it to Amanda.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, and that's very interesting to learn about your story because I mean, I cannot relate to any of the part where, you are talking about like you had so much bullying in school or like when you're going out with friends, you were like really sidelined.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in India where
Yeah.
everybody looked the same, everybody was part of the same kind of culture while growing up. The only difference was there were rich and poor and middle class people in India. But thankfully, my parents never compared any one of us with
Oh,
them. I didn't even understand the difference.
wow.
I came from a very affluent family. My parents are doctors back home in India.
Wow.
So, but we had it all,
Yeah.
but we were never told about that. So, as kids, we were just raised the same way as any other family, except the fact that we got to travel the world a lot.
Yeah. And I totally understand that. And, working as a public defender and being a paralegal at King County, something that I've learned is that everyone has a story and no one is less than us just because they have been, put in a situation that is different.
So true. I know you also mentioned that the cultural background influenced your identity,
Yeah.
and you also changed your name.
Yeah.
Do you ever reflect back on something that you would have liked to change while growing up? Or currently, would you like to talk to anybody who's facing something like that?
Yeah. I think in society nowadays, we have so many mixed race, people and kids. And the struggle that I see that still continues today is what side do you identify with? And how do you identify with a side if they don't accept you? And that's something that's really hard. But what I really appreciated is that, my mom really kept our Vietnamese culture together. And the time that I had spent with my step grandpa, who was also African American, I spent it in the church with him and my grandma. I was able to experience both of them. And having that made me become so much more rich in who I am and the diversity that I bring.
Right.
I'm not going to choose one side over the other. It's just these experiences make me someone that has more depth to them and more understanding and compassion. So
That's wonderful.
just
I
take
love
that.
to hear that story. This is so inspiring.
Thank you.
And I think you belong to a very powerful and a great heritage. And I think you're leaning that forward by winning this title. And we are just eyeing on you to win many, many more
I hope
in
so.
future.
That's what I'm planning on. Thank you.
So, Amanda, what inspired you to pursue a career in criminal justice?
Man, it goes back to when I was 16 and I took a forensic science class in high school. And initially, it's funny because our first project, the first week, was learning about body decomposition. And
Wow.
and it was the coolest thing because we all were given a piece of like pork slab that we would find a certain way to like kill it and then hide it in the woods. And then we would go there every couple of days to see how it decomposed. And I just thought that was the most fascinating thing. And that kind of just led me into the idea of wanting to become a detective. And so I actually wanted to become a law enforcement officer before I went into law. And I studied at the University of Washington, Tacoma, got my criminal justice degree. I worked as a work study at the police academy for about a year and a half. But just with everything that had happened around 2009, 2008 with the police brutality and just a lot of stuff that was in the media at the time, I really wanted to still make an impact and serve my community in another way. And so I just took my degree and all of the experience that I had and went into law. And I was so lucky to land this job with King County. And I've been there for June will be 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. What a story.
Yeah. So it's been fun and it's really rewarding. And it's different and it's very interesting still.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of stories, but I wanted to specifically talk about the fact that you have been working as a paralegal advocating for the indigent community. Did you actually experience a lot of challenges working through them?
Myself, like within the field. Yeah, I think what I saw was how underfunded public defense was and how much my clients had really needed help and wouldn't be able to get beds for mental health treatment or drug treatment, and because there wasn't enough space. And it's really disheartening. You know, there was one, I worked in contempt of court for about 5 years, and something that had really affected me was when my client would ask, hey, is it any possible that we can have court scheduled in the afternoon instead of the morning? And I had asked him why. And he had told me, well, I sleep under a bridge at night and it's really hard and cold. And so it's only in the morning when it warms up a little where I can get a little bit of sleep. And
That's
that
so
was just so
heartbreaking.
like, yeah, you know, that really just like confirmed
Yeah.
that like I really enjoyed what I do because I want to be able to help someone out and just get them out of a really bad space because some of us have help and others don't, you know.
Wow, that's a heartbreaking story, and I'm sure you have a lot many. But I also wanted to talk about like any story from your career that reaffirmed that this is, this justice is part of you, is something that you want to look forward. And we will talk about the beauty part as well. But I do want to understand a little more from you. Were there any experiences, any stories that really ignited your passion?
Yeah, in 2020 when George Floyd had passed away and that whole movement again really reignited why I did what I did, you know, for my career. And I remember even with the union that I'm a part of and some of my coworkers, we had gone and did a couple of marches to Capitol Hill and made sure that we passed out our cards, you know, if something were to happen, to make sure that you call a public defender. There was just a lot of uneasy things that were happening. And that was the only time that we could really say like, hey, we can help.
Right.
You know, and it was just really monumental. And then same thing with Asian hate, you know, that really affected me in a way of, well, I kind of felt nervous walking around. Yeah, but at the end of the day, I also had to remember just my work is so vital to our society.
It is.
And a lot of people don't have the education or have the courage or knowledge to even speak up for themselves. And so why not have the trained people, you know, do it for you to give you a fighting chance?
Right. I agree. And I think I am a brown woman as well. So I have faced racism. I've faced racial slurs. I've faced a lot of different things living in this country, which I never knew existed unless it actually happens to you. And no matter, how much we can protest, but sometimes when you experience that, when you experience these kind of things around you, I think that's when you realize how miserable you are at that moment. And there's nothing you can do because you can only change a person's mind to an extent, but you cannot end racism. They say you can end racism by stop talking about it.
That's not
But
the
it
point.
looks great as a quote, but it doesn't work like that.
No, you have to talk about it. You have to educate.
You have to educate more people about it, right? We've lost recently so many Indian kids in America, and the sad part is it's not even covered in the American news.
Wow.
It's only being covered in Indian news. And why are we not talking about it? Why are we not sharing that why these kids' lives were lost? Most of
Yeah.
them were in college studying, their bodies were found. There's no reason ruled out yet.
Yeah.
They were hardworking kids. Anybody who comes from India or any other countries to America to pursue further education, they have worked really hard.
Yeah,
Their
they have.
families have worked really, really hard for them to be here. So it's not the kid, it's the whole family who is actually present, omnipresent here.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart when I see this news and it's still not covered in the main media.
It's
And
not. And it's just, it does suck because I feel like it's so selective.
it is selective. As much as the mainstream media covers a lot, it still doesn't cover a lot.
Yep. That
There's
part
so
right
much
there.
corruption, there's so much
Yes.
unsaid stuff. So just like that story, this reminded me that, as brown people, as black people, as people just with another skin color, we all have, our highs and our lows. And
Yep.
what keeps us together is our spirit. And that fighting spirit should always stay with us.
Yeah, for sure.
Amanda, this story is so inspirational. I just want to keep going on. And I know I'm going to talk a little more about personal challenges and
Yeah.
personal growth, because when there are challenges, there's growth.
Right.
And you've navigated through some tough times from your birth days till today. So I want to understand a little more. You were married once before and you
Yes.
had a divorce.
Yes.
How did you navigate through that challenging times? And now here you are as Miss Bellevue. So you've come a very long way and we're so
Yeah.
proud of you
you.
representing our city.
Yeah.
So I love to hear that from you.
Yeah, well, this goes back to when I was in high school. So I had met him when I was 17. Actually, I met him when I was 16, and then we dated when we were 17. And then we were together for 12 years in total. And, when you meet someone at such an early age, you're still growing. You don't know who you are. And so to be with him throughout my entire 20s, I was still learning about myself. And
Right?
a lot of who I was definitely compromised with having a partner. So it's what we are together versus
Right.
what I am. So one of my closest friends had passed away unexpectedly in 2019. And that made me really reevaluate everything in my life. And I just knew that there was something that wasn't sitting right with me. And when COVID came around, it just expedited my feelings. And I felt like I was destined to do a little bit more.
Absolutely.
And so I made the decision to leave. And, I've learned a lot from that relationship. And it was really hard, though, to go through a divorce amidst a pandemic
Right.
and moving out, and also just taking like the clothes that I had and the very few furniture. So it was totally like just starting over completely again.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, so it was really hard, and I got through it because of my faith, and I came back to God and just asked him to give me the strength and be with me. And my mom really became such a key role in my healing. And it just made me understand like all the hard work that she had to go through, and even her own divorce when I was younger, that I just felt like she caused like our family to break up, everything, and all the happiness that we had. And now I understand it's just life.
Yes.
And we just have to go through and push through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it didn't really break me. I think it just made me stronger and realigned what my purpose was in life.
I love that. I love how you shared your story. I think it's very inspirational because a lot of women, feel stuck. They feel like they are compelled to be in that relationship for eternity just because they got married once. And I'm not
Yeah.
trying to break a marriage, but I married myself and I'm happy. But if you're not happy, you know it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I know that they suffer because they've had kids in that marriage. And it's really hard for them to pursue moving out.
Right.
And no matter how you have to navigate those challenges, I think you have to listen to your heart. and believe in the power of hope. And I think people forget that there is hope at the end of any tunnel.
Yes.
The black hole will end, the skylight will show, and the sun will shine.
Right.
And we cannot lose that hope, because I think this whole world revolves around the power of hope.
Yeah. I mean, I lost hope a year ago, and God is the one that gave it back to me. I will tell you that. You know, when you go through a lot of changes and healing, you also lose a lot of people too during that path. And so sometimes you feel like you don't have a community around you to just help you when you can't really give that motivation for yourself.
Yeah.
So I really leaned into my faith, and because of him, like, I am so grateful that I'm still here.
I love that.
And just really pursuing everything that I want, because these are the things that make me happy. These are the things that I want to try and learn and see if I like it or not. And so, yeah.
Amanda, that was so wonderful. I think you've really ignited a lot of passion and hope in a lot of women. And I hope we continue to do that.
Yes, thank you.
So Amanda, we just learned a lot about, your personal challenges, but I also want to resonate back on the fact that you've grown so much from there. You've grown so much from that relationship, and you've never looked back. And that growth is what everybody's looking for.
Yeah.
And you've decided to compete in a pageant, and you won Miss Bellevue. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Representing our city and going to be representing our state is a big, big achievement in itself.
Sure.
But I want to know from you, your journey. How did you decide to take part in this?
Yeah, so it's a beauty pageant, and it took me a long time to get to a point where I felt really beautiful with and without makeup. You know, we had talked earlier about when I was a kid and how people would call me names because either I was too skinny, I was too dark. I remember I think I had a family member say to me, you're only dark skinned because you drink a lot of chocolate milk.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that still sticks with me till this day.
Oh my God. That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So if I eat dark chocolates, I'll be dark.
Right.
I love dark chocolates, by the way. Maybe I'm brown because of that.
I'll eat some more caramels or Werther's or something. Yeah, but it took me a really long time to feel beautiful, and the insecurities that I had developed in my relationships also didn't help. So it took me a lot to just reframe my mentality. I went through a lot of therapy. I'm still in therapy till this day. And it was really helpful in just becoming someone that was self-aware, to understand my triggers, and to reframe my thinking when I was ever put in a situation where I was talking badly about myself. And, a lot of reading, podcasts, you just have to learn how to retrain your brain, honestly. And I just look at everything in life as like mind over matter. But because of that, and because of the people that I was starting to surround myself with, they really had a hand in just boosting my confidence a little. And I met someone that had participated in pageants in the past. And she's like, Amanda, hearing my story, like just the stuff that we're talking today, she just thought that it was a great opportunity for me, especially with the age limit being removed and the regulations about not being married, that had been lifted. So it's giving me an opportunity to
incredible.
Really,
I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for all of us women to really make history and redefine what beauty is.
Right.
And beauty doesn't stop just because you've been married or divorced or had kids or,
I can't believe it took us this long to reach this stage, right? And I'm still glad it's happening right now. But I also feel that there were so many women who were opportunistic, who deserved to compete, were never able to do it.
Yeah, because they had to chase their career. They had to start a family. Your 20s. So the age range was from 18 to 27. And so I'm 33. And so I didn't really have, the opportunity to do much while I was married and having my career. And so this is just a really great opportunity for sure to share my story and hopefully inspire others to do the same, to kind of just, if pageants isn't their thing, but it's not too late to chase whatever they're their heart desires.
So true. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. Amanda, as Miss Bellevue USA, you're involved a lot in community work and advocacy. Can you walk us through what kind of work are you doing right now?
Yeah, so I only started this journey of being Miss Bellevue since mid-January. So it's been 3 months.
And actually, I should reframe my question because you've been doing community work since many years as a
Yeah.
public defender.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've just always wanted to give back to my community in some way. I think that it's just been nice to help when I can and just be another body to support something or help out. I think it comes a lot from me wanting help sometimes. And when I feel like I haven't had that type of, I don't know, when I don't have help, I don't ever want someone to feel that same way.
Yeah.
Same thing with other causes. So that's kind of why I just want to put myself out there and do what I can. And it's also a great learning opportunity.
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's something that I've definitely learned in the last 3 months. I started working with a friend. Her name is Mary Cress Castro, and she is the commissioner. But she works for APCC, which is the Asian Pacific Cultural Center, and she's gotten to bring me as a guest multiple times for all of these different events. And the first one was the Lunar New Year festival. And as someone who's Vietnamese, I also celebrate every single year. And so it was the first time I was publicly announced that I am Vietnamese and Black, born in a refugee camp, and I'm competing for Miss Washington. So that was my first taste of like, wow, this is really it. And I'm representing people that, that are looking up to me now. And so I've just been making more appearances and kind of showing my support and letting people know who I am.
Right.
And all of the different depths to me that there are with my history of my childhood and my background and my work and what I want to advocate for now. So, but also just do things that I always wanted to do, but being able to use the Miss Bellevue USA title as an avenue to do it.
Right.
One thing that I really enjoyed was when I went to my old elementary school to speak to the kindergartners.
Wow.
And I went to that school back in 1999. And when I went there, they were so ecstatic to see me. They were so happy. And just we did a whole tour. I read to them. They did a little song and dance for me. And when I learned about them, half of them were refugees as well from Afghanistan.
Wow.
So what the teacher had told me is that a lot of them, or some of them, haven't even been in the U.S. for a year.
And they can't even speak English. Probably they're still learning how to speak.
Yeah. And that was me. I was still learning to speak a lot of English when I was their age. And so I totally understood what they were going through.
Right.
But because I could say like, oh, I know how you feel. Like that's exactly what I had been through. I felt like there was a connection because, and they could relate.
Yeah.
So it's those small moments
Right.
that really make this whole process so rewarding. Even if I don't win, but I plan to win. I love what I'm learning. I love the spaces that I finally get to be in that I normally wouldn't.
Right.
So, yeah.
Sometimes we look back and think, oh, this was my story. But then today, you're inspiring so many people with the same story. And, as kids, we don't understand.
Yeah.
Of course, we have that little minds where we cannot understand it all. We cannot bring the entire world to us. But I feel that as we are growing old, that is the impact we carry with us. And this is the impact you're carrying right now to the world. So I think wherever we come from, I want to tell everybody that you should be so proud of wherever you come from, just like Amanda is. And there is a story behind that. And that story is what's going to make you one day something.
Yeah.
If you are proud of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Amanda, I also wanted to learn, like you spoke a little bit about, your healing journey and how do you bring it all together? It's a very fierce competitive world where you're entering
Yes.
right now. And it's very hard to maneuver between work-life balance, making
Oh,
sure you're able to
yeah.
represent your face. You have to keep up with your body, your face. So, tell somebody who is getting inspired, maybe that little girl watching you, maybe that young Amanda looking at you and saying, "Oh, mommy, I want to be like her one day."
Yeah.
What would you like to tell her?
Well, I can tell her that I was her. You know, um, TV, we didn't have social media back then.
Mm,
So what we saw on TV shows on Disney Channel and Nickelodeon, that was what I had to go off of.
mm-hmm.
And so I did look to, shows and people that were popular or people that were doing really good for the community,
Right.
actresses and actors that were giving back. Like Angelina Jolie, for instance, was someone that I admired when I was younger. And it's just, look, I don't know. I want to be that good role model for them and just remind them that it's okay, whatever they're going through, that it will pass.
Mm,
And the hardest things that you go through are not something that you should define yourself as, but use that as a stepping stone
I
to
like
really
that.
grow
Mm-hmm.
and also teach others how to overcome that.
Mm,
And so every dream that you have is not too big. When other people tell you that it's too big, then it's just probably too big for them.
mm-hmm.
So don't stop dreaming. Like, it's 2024. There's so much left in this world that we can accomplish.
We can.
We just have to work hard at it
Yep.
and not give up.
Yep. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I
Yeah,
think
thank you.
I absolutely loved what you just shared. It's very intimidating, but very inspiring because the reason I use the word intimidating is because every person's journey is so unique.
Yeah.
And every time I sit here and hear somebody's story, it gives me goosebumps because,
Oh.
it's great to share a story that is impactful, but it's also great to share a story. It's because it belongs to you.
Yeah, for sure. And I will definitely say it was never an easy
Mm-hmm.
journey. It was so hard. I still find myself crying till this day. But I know that I'm fortunate to have a community that supports me.
Right.
I have family that will support me if I need it.
Right.
I'm also someone that just will do everything alone. I'm independent woman,
Yeah.
but yet the people that you surround yourself with are going to make or break you.
True.
And so it's being mindful of that. And if you don't have the luxury of having that support group, your faith is going to be everything in those testing times.
Absolutely. Thank you. Amanda, thank you for coming to Women in the Making. We've had so much fun talking about your journey,
Yeah,
your
thanks for
story,
having me.
and I would love to meet your mom someday,
Oh, she lives next
hopefully.
door to me, so every time you come
I
over,
want
she'll
to
be
hear
right there
some
cooking
more
for us.
stories. We've only seen the war stuff, in TV and in Netflix, but to hear
Yeah.
from real people is really something I look forward to, and that's why I love to share stories because I love to hear
Yeah.
these. But we are at the end of the show, and they are called the burning questions. My favorite, super
Okay.
fun, short and sweet. So here I am.
Okay.
Tell us a secret nobody knows about you.
I don't know if it's nobody, but a lot of people don't really know that I watch the Game Show Network religiously, like every single day. I wake up and I work from home. So in the morning, I will have How to Make a Deal or Let's Make a Deal, and then The Price is Right. And then I switch the channel
Oh my
to the Game Show
gosh.
Network and I watch like Match Game. And yeah, so it's kind of an embarrassing fact, but I grew up with it. My parents had a cable box when I was younger, and that was like the one channel that I just enjoyed watching because they had Louis Anderson on Family Feud.
And moving on to the next question, what's the most adventurous thing you've done?
The most adventurous. I think the most bravest thing that I've done, aside from going into pageantry, because that is pretty crazy, was when I was young and I went on my very first roller coaster in Vietnam. When we're adults now, we look at theme parks and how dangerous it is. And now I understand why nobody wanted to go on it with me. But I survived, and I think...
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I'm here. But that's probably where I'm a little bit fearless in so many different ways, because it's not what other people's fears are going to affect on me, but like, I'm just going to try it. We have to face our challenges.
Right.
So, and that's kind of where I developed it from.
And my last question, if you could switch lives with a fictional character, who would it be and why?
Fictional character. The only thing I can think of is Garfield right now, because he just lays there and eats spaghetti all day.
I'm sure you're not doing that right now.
Not right now, but for the most part, I will just sit and do nothing and eat at home.
Maybe the day after the pageant, we'll see you eating spaghetti and like lazing down.
Right. We'll definitely do like a photo shoot.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Amanda. This was incredible, and it was so much fun. I had a time of my life speaking with you, and I hope you did as well.
I did. Thank you so much for having me. This is a really great opportunity to share my story, and so I'm really appreciative of the platform.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Amanda, your journey of resilience, advocacy, and leadership is truly inspiring. Thank you for sharing your story with us and reminding us that age is just a number, and with determination, anything is possible. To our listeners, remember that every woman is in the making of something great. Stay tuned for more empowering stories, more empowering episodes on Women in the Making. Until next time, keep striving, keep believing, and keep making a difference. Don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe.